They tell me the whispers are all in my head, that the strange, guttural words I find myself carving into the walls in my sleep are just a symptom of stress. My doctor agrees. He wants to put me on pills. But my wife, Emily, she knows better. She hears them too sometimes, just faintly. The same whispers she thought we got rid of forever. The problem is, this time they're not coming for her. This time, they're already inside me. This whole nightmare kicked off 3 months ago, in what was supposed to be our forever home. Tucked away in some forgotten corner of the Appalachians, we found this farmhouse, and man, it was supposed to be our dream. It was old, sure, but it had good bones, and it came with 100 acres of thick, quiet forest. Emily and I, we were city people, and the silence felt like a relief. The first few weeks were spent just breathing it all in, planning a garden, picturing the life we were going to build. We thought the isolation was freedom. We were idiots. Out here, isolation isn't freedom. It's just a cage without bars. About the third weekend, I was out clearing some brush on the edge of the property, trying to map out a little walking trail. My shovel hit something hard, and it wasn't a rock. It was a small, rotted wooden box. Inside, sitting on a bed of what looked like old leaves, was a clay bowl. It was filled with this bizarre, stomach-turning mix of gray ash, splintered animal bones, clumps of dark hair, and uncooked rice. We both just stared at it. I felt this cold knot tighten in my gut. Emily, who was always the practical one, she just laughed it off, said it was probably some old folk magic, a weird thing left over from a different time. I wanted to believe her, so we threw it out. We tossed it in the back of my truck with the rest of the junk for the dump and tried to forget about it. We had no idea we'd just accepted a dark invitation. The way Emily started to change, it was slow, creeping. It started with the insomnia. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, and her side of the bed would be empty. I'd find her in the living room, just standing at the window, staring out into the pitch-black woods. She'd say she couldn't settle. Then came the mumbling. At first, it was just nonsense sounds in her sleep. But night after night, it got louder, until it turned into whole sentences in some language I'd never heard, all harsh sounds and long, hissing vowels. It was a dead-sounding language, a clicking guttural tongue that made the hair on my arms stand on end. It was like the woman I married was just fading. In her place was this hollow-eyed stranger who was paranoid and would fly into these sudden, terrifying rages. One afternoon, I walked into the kitchen and found her just standing there, holding a butcher knife, completely catatonic. She had no memory of even picking it up. All that local folklore we'd found so charming suddenly felt like a warning we'd been too stupid to read. I remembered this old-timer in town telling me a rule of the woods. If you hear your name called in the woods, know you didn't. Through her tears, Emily confessed she heard her name on the wind every single night, calling her out to the trees. Our dream home now felt like a tomb. Look, I'm a city guy. I didn't believe in any of this stuff, but I couldn't afford not to anymore. I was desperate. I drove into town to find that same old man who'd told me about the woods. My voice cracked as I told him everything. He just listened, his face a mask of grim understanding. He gave me a name and an address for a woman deeper in the hills. Someone he said understood the old ways. Her name was Althea. She was this small, stern woman with eyes that saw way more than you were comfortable with. She didn't need much of an explanation. The second she stepped inside our house, she physically shuddered. She walked from room to room, her hands just sort of tracing the air, and she confirmed our worst fear. It was a curse, an entity that had been tied to that box we'd found, designed to latch on to whoever woke it up. And now, it was feeding on Emily's soul. Althea agreed to do a cleansing, but she warned me. These things, she said, they're territorial. They don't want to leave. The prep started right away. We poured salt across every doorway and windowsill. On her orders, we hung heavy blankets over every single window and mirror, trying to block the spirit's entryways and its sight. The whole house became this dark, suffocating war room for a fight I couldn't even begin to understand. Before we go any further, if you appreciate stories about the strange, the dark, and the mysterious, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Your support is what allows these stories to be told. Now, let's get back to the cleansing. Those 3 days, they were pure terror. It was Althea, her 2 sons, and me. in a circle around Emily in the living room. The air got thick, heavy with the smell of burning sage and something else. Something metallic and old, like dried blood. As Althea started chanting in this low, humming voice, Emily's entire body went stiff. Her head snapped back, and a voice that was not hers erupted from her throat, spewing that same dead language, only now it was filled with pure venom. For 2 days and 2 nights, that thing fought us. The house itself felt like it was turning on us. The walls would groan, and we'd hear these scratching sounds from inside them. Light bulbs popped, throwing us into a darkness lit only by Althea's candles. You hear stories about unexplained lights in these mountains, like the Brown Mountain lights, people thinking they're old spirits. In our house, little flickers of light would dance in the corners of your eyes, just at the edge of your vision. Through all of it, I just held on to Emily. That was my job. I was her anchor. I had to call her back. I clutched her hands until my knuckles were white, just whispering her name over and over, reminding her of us, of our life, of our love, begging her to fight. On the 3rd night, it all hit a fever pitch. A guttural scream ripped out of Emily's lungs, and every single light bulb left in the house shattered at once. And then, silence. A deep, peaceful silence. Emily just collapsed in my arms, limp and drenched in sweat, but her breathing was finally even. She was herself again. I looked over at Althea. Her face was pale and exhausted. She gave me a slow nod. "It's gone," she whispered. The nightmare was over. For a few weeks, things almost felt normal again. Emily was healing. She had lost a huge chunk of her memory, only remembering getting sick and then waking up after the ritual was over. Honestly, I was grateful for that. I filled in the blanks for her with half-truths, trying to protect her from how horrific it really was. We scrubbed the house from top to bottom, threw out the blankets, and aired out the smell of sage. The house felt light again. We were laughing. We felt like us. We even talked about selling the place, but a part of me, the part that had stood up to whatever that was and won, felt this stubborn pride. I had saved my wife. I had protected our home. We had survived. The relief was so absolute. I never stopped to think that the fight wasn't really over. An evil that old doesn't just disappear. It just waits for a new door to open. The first sign was so small I almost missed it. I woke up standing at our bedroom window, the same one Emily was always drawn to. My throat was raw and tasted like dust. I just told myself it was a bad dream, an echo of all the trauma. A few nights later, though, I woke up with mud kicked under my fingernails and no clue how it got there. Then I started losing time. Just small gaps at first. An hour here, an hour there. I'd be out in my workshop, and the next thing I knew, the sun was setting, and there would be a new, intricate carving on a piece of scrap wood. The same twisting, nightmarish symbols Emily had scratched into our floorboards. I hid them. I was terrified of what they meant. The breaking point came last Tuesday. I was jolted awake by Emily shaking my shoulder. In the moonlight, I could see her face was just a mask of pure terror, with tears streaming down her cheeks. "You were talking," she whispered, her voice shaking. "In your sleep." I felt the blood drain from my face. I asked the question I already knew the answer to. What did I say? She squeezed her eyes shut. "The same words," she choked out. "The same horrible words you saved me from." And in that 1 second, the whole horrifying truth just crashed down on me. The curse wasn't banished. It wasn't destroyed. In the chaos of that ritual, when I was holding on to Emily, offering myself as her anchor, the entity had just let go of her and grabbed onto me. It had switched hosts. It had found a new home. I tried to hide it. I tried to pretend it was just stress, because I could not put her through that hell again. But the whispers weren't just in my sleep anymore. They're a constant murmur now, right at the edge of my hearing. A dead language promising me things. I feel this cold, alien rage bubbling up inside me. This impulse to just lash out, to break things. I find myself walking out to the woods, to that same spot where we found the box. That old folk rule haunts me now. Don't look at the trees, because when I look at them, I feel something ancient and patient looking right back at me. I don't know how much time I have left. The memory gaps are getting longer. The whispers are getting louder. Emily knows. I can see it in her eyes. She watches me with that same terrified look she had when the darkness was inside her, only now it's mixed with this pity that just breaks my heart. She's afraid of me. Althea told us that a curse like this has to have a host. It can't exist without a body. Last night, I woke up in the dark, standing over our bed. The weight of a shovel felt heavy in my hands. Emily was awake, her eyes wide, just watching me. And the whispers, God, the whispers were so clear. They were telling me to complete the ritual, to dig a new hole, to make a new offering so the curse could be reborn, stronger than before. And the most terrifying part? For just a second, a part of me, a new and hungry part of me, wanted to do it. I don't know how much longer I can win this fight. If you've ever had an experience that you can't explain, a brush with something that dwells in the shadows, share your story in the comments below. And remember to subscribe and turn on notifications for more tales of the strange, dark, and mysterious. Be careful out there.